Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're digging into a really unusual case file. It's from The X-Files Season 3, Hell Money.
Right. And this one's interesting because it sort of shifts focus, doesn't it? We're not talking aliens or, typical paranormal stuff.
Exactly. We land squarely in San Francisco's Chinatown. It gets pretty gritty, dealing with very human motivations.
This episode, it first aired March 29th, 1996. Jeffrey Vlaming wrote it. Tucker Gates directed.
And it's a standalone, right? So you don't need all the complex mythology background.
Nope, not at all. You can just jump right in. Our mission today is basically to unpack the story, the mystery itself, and also explore the cultural context it uses, which is fascinating, but also, frankly, pretty unsettling at times.
Okay, let's start with that opening. It really throws you in.
It does. You've got Johnny Lowe running scared through Chinatown at night.
Sees those weird white symbols on his door.
Yeah, then there's a struggle inside his place, and the next thing we know, Bayside Funeral Home.
And the discovery. Lowe, burned alive, inside the crematory oven. It's a heck of an opening. Really visceral.
It grabs you immediately. So Mulder and Scully show up, and the vibe is heavy. This isn't theoretical, it's brutal reality.
Even Mulder, the usual believer, seems kind of taken aback by the sheer grimness of it, at least at first.
But Scully, she's sharp as always. Right away, she clocks a detail. The victim had a glass eye.
Okay. Important later. And inside the oven.
A Chinese character, etched right there.
Yeah.
Creepy.
That's where Detective Glenn Chow comes in, isn't it?
Right, he translates it. Ghost,
okay. And he also finds bits of burnt paper.
Yeah, hell money. He explains it's like symbolic money you burn for spirits during the Chinese festival of the hungry ghosts.
So right away, we've got this cultural layer hinting at something more than just murder.
Exactly. Then they head to Loa's apartment. Scully's thinking gangs, maybe a cult.
Mulder's probably got ghosts on the brain for a second, but he's also looking at those white marks on the door again.
And the carpet. That detail about the new but poorly laid carpet. That snags Mulder's attention.
What else do they find?
Scully finds some Chinese herbs, skullcap root, Chinese angelica. Chow identifies them as painkillers.
Okay.
And a dried frog. Chow says it's a charm for health, prosperity, that kind of thing.
Seems innocent enough.
Until they look under that new carpet.
Bloodstains?
Yep. Changes things.
This is where the story kind of pivots, isn't it? We meet Shin.
Yes. Hezens and his daughter Kim. She's sick. Leukemia.
And he's desperate, needs money for her operation, which leads him where?
To this hidden game.
Yeah.
In an old abandoned restaurant. It's all very secretive.
What kind of game?
It involves these working class Asian men drawing colored tiles out of jade vases. It's tense.
And we see someone, the wiry man.
Yeah, the guy with the milky eye. He draws a tile, there's a reaction from the others, and his 10 looks visibly relieved.
Relieved? What?
Well, the implication is that the wiry man drew the losing tile. Maybe. He gets taken away to a back room by these guys in suits. Kian's relief suggests he dodged a bullet, for now.
Okay. So, Mulder and Scully need info on those herbs.
Right, so they, along with Chow, go see Dr. Wu at an apothecary.
And she confirms painkillers.
Yep. But then they show her a drawing of those white symbols from the door.
Yeah.
She freaks out, speaks really fast in Cantonese, looks terrified, and basically kicks him out.
What does she say?
Chow translates. She called the apartment a haunted house. Again, that link to the Hungry Ghost Festival. Everything feels kind of spooky.
Meanwhile, what's happening to the wire man in that back room?
It's not good. He's drugged. Has these awful visions like ancient Chinese figures. One seems to be taking his heart out.
Jeez.
And then we see the hard-faced man, the organizer, in surgical gear, checking on him. The purpose of this game is becoming horrifyingly clear.
So back with the agents, Chow explains more about the festival.
Yeah, about appeasing the spirits, the ghosts walking the earth. But he's very neutral about it, just giving them the cultural background, not saying he believes it himself.
He's playing the role of interpreter.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Then another piece falls into place. Yeah. A watchman at Highland Park Cemetery.
See something.
Masked figures near a new grave. And the masks sound like the ones seen near the crematorium where Lowe was found.
Connecting the dots.
Exactly. Detective Neary takes them to the grave. Mulder, you know Mulder, he gets them to dig.
They find
the wire man's body. Confirms the connection, links the game, the masks, the crematorium, the grave. It's all one awful thing.
Okay, so Act 2 starts, and things really start to unravel. The conspiracy deepens.
Yeah, big time. Scully's autopsy on the wire man.
Confirms organ harvesting.
Absolutely. Organs surgically removed. And remember that frog charm?
Yeah.
They find a frog inside the body.
Ooh, that's bizarre. And definitely contradicts the good luck charm story.
Totally. And it makes you think back to Johnny Lowe's glass eye. It's all pointing towards harvesting body parts, not just major organs.
And the game, it's still going on.
Yes. And this time, it's Aishin who gets taken to the back room. The dread just ramps up.
So they have to confront Chow, right? With the frog, the organs.
They push him. Question why he seems so protective, maybe covering things up.
How does he react?
He insists he's an outsider too. Trying to help, but caught in something complex. He seems genuinely torn, maybe. Or maybe he's just a good liar.
Hard to tell. Then they visit Hutchin's place.
Right. He's got a bandaged eye now. Says it was a work accident.
But they know better.
Pretty much. Scully asks about the carpet in Lowe's apartment, trying to gauge his reaction. Mulder finds one of the colored game tiles in Histon's apartment.
Aha. Proof he's involved.
Definitely. While this is happening, Chow talks to Kim, the daughter. It's quite poignant.
Then Chow talks to Shin privately.
Yeah, in the hallway.
Yeah.
Claims he was just warning Shin about the building being a fire trap.
Doesn't sound right.
No. Especially when Mulder shows him the tile later, and Chow pretends not to recognize it as a game piece, though he does identify a character on it meaning wood.
He's hiding something. So they decide to follow Hishin.
Makes sense. And we get that heartbreaking scene where Kim asks her dad about his eye. He's evasive, but it heavily implies he did it for her operation money.
God, the desperation. And then Chow.
He goes home, and those masked figures are waiting for him. He's definitely in deep, too deep.
Okay, Act 3, the pressure is mounting.
Ugly. Mulder and Scully are watching Histon's place, but then they get the call, Chow's been attacked.
So they have to leave the stakeout.
Yeah, and as they go, we see the hard-faced man watching them. Then he goes straight to Shin.
What happens?
Histon wants out. He's terrified. But the hard-faced man basically threatens him. Says the Chinese ghosts will get him if he breaks the rules, but also claims he can't just let him leave.
Trapped.
And Kim overhears all of this. She sees how scared her father is.
Oh, poor kid. Meanwhile, the agents are at the hospital.
Yeah, but Chow's gone. Checked himself out.
But Mulder looks at his chart.
And finds the connection. Chow's blood type matches the blood under Long's carpet.
So Chow was involved in that initial struggle. The fire trap story was definitely a lie.
Confirmed. So they talk to Kim.
And she tells him everything.
About the leukemia, her dad's desperation, and the crucial clue. That symbol on the tile Chow called wood. It also means eye.
The eye. Like Histon's injury. Chow knew. He withheld that.
Exactly. Scully digs deeper, finds out Histon wasn't a match for Kim's bone marrow, and recently had his liver and kidneys measured.
Oh no. It clicks for Mulder then, doesn't it?
Bingo. It's not just random body parts, it's a specific, horrifying organ harvesting lottery.
And Histon, knowing all this, goes back.
He feels he has no choice.
Yeah.
Returns to the restaurant for the next game.
What else do the agents find?
They check with the organ procurement organization. Turns out, yeah, a lot of Asian men ask for tissue typing, then just disappear.
Chilling. So they head back to the restaurant.
Following a lead, yeah. And they see Chow go inside. Just as Chase is being dragged to the back room again. And Chow is watching it happen.
The final act. Confrontation time.
Right. Mulder and Scully go in. The ground floor looks deserted. But then, in the kitchen, frozen human organs. Stored like meat. The scale of it, the coldness, it's sickening.
Upstairs, Chow tries to stop it.
Yeah, he finally seems to crack, pleads with the organizers. But one of them just reminds him he took their money. He's complicit.
So what does Chow do?
In this moment of maybe desperation or defiance, he smashes one of the jade vases.
And reveals.
All the tiles inside are the same color. The game was always rigged. There was never a chance to win, only to lose.
Wow, how does the crowd react?
They realize they've been cheated, exploited. They get angry, storm the gaming room.
Which alerts Mulder and Scully.
Yep. They hear the commotion. Meanwhile, in the back.
They're about to operate on Histon again.
Yeah. He has this vision of Kim, whispers asking for forgiveness. It's intense.
But Chow bursts in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he shoots the hard-faced man.
Just as Mulder and Scully arrive.
Exactly. They arrest both Chow and the wounded hard-faced man.
What happens in the interrogation?
The hard-faced man tries to justify it all. Some twisted logic about supply and demand, maybe.
But Scully lays it out for him. Prison. For a long time.
We get an update, too. Hin's in intensive care. But there's a small positive note. Kim's been added to the official organ transplant list.
That's something, at least.
Yeah.
But there's a problem with the prosecution.
Yeah. Chow is crucial. His testimony is needed. But he's disappeared. vanished again.
Which leads to that final scene.
Oh yeah, haunting. Chow, he wakes up inside a crematory oven.
Just like Johnny Lo.
The flames start.
Yeah.
And you see it on the oven wall.
Yeah.
That Chinese character.
Ghost.
A really chilling, ambiguous end for him. Did the game operators get him? Or something else?
Leaves you wondering. Okay, so that's the story. Now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the making of Hell Money, the behind-the-scenes stuff. There's a certain mystique looking back, isn't there?
Definitely. It's always fascinating to peel back the layers. The origin of this episode is pretty interesting itself.
Yeah. It wasn't Jeffrey Vlyman's original idea, was it?
Not entirely. The core concept, that really dark idea of a pyramid scheme for body parts, that actually came from Chris Carter, the series creator.
Okay, wow. So Vlaming took that seed.
And ran with it. He merged it with his own ideas, things like a small-town lottery, but, much more sinister, and this feeling of shadowy corporate control within Chinatown. It's kind of a clever blend.
And had a weird impact, right? Like, people thought it might be real.
Yeah, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
Story editor Frank Spotnitz mentioned finding that fascinating that viewers could believe such a gruesome underground lottery existed. It really tapped into some anxieties, I think.
It probably felt plausible because of the cultural details they used.
Exactly. The Hell Money, the Ghost Festival, those are real traditions.
Yeah.
Grounding the fictional horror in that reality makes it feel more possible somehow.
They even threw in a reference to the Hong Kong handover in '97.
Yeah. That influx of people, it adds another layer of context, makes the setting feel more specific, more lived in.
Production-wise, they didn't actually film in San Francisco, did they?
No, it was Vancouver's Chinatown, as usual for the show back then.
Yeah.
Vancouver was quite the chameleon. It even stood in for Hong Kong and other things.
And the crematorium, that must have been a location nightmare.
Actually, no. Those scenes, all done on a soundstage, built specifically for that creepy atmosphere.
And the props for the game? The vases and tiles?
Made from scratch by the props department. They look really authentic, didn't they? Those jade vases.
They did. Okay, you mentioned the frog inside the corpse earlier. How did they even do that effect? Sounds complicated.
You'd think so. But apparently it was pretty simple. They used a prosthetic torso over the actor for the wider shot.
Okay.
And for the close-up. Just a table with a hole cut in it, and an animal wrangler gently pushed a real frog up through the hole. Old school practical effects.
Wow. Sometimes the simplest tricks work best. What about the language? You mentioned Cantonese.
Yeah, this is interesting. Initially, the actors playing Aishin and Kim Michael Yama and Lucy Liu recorded their lines with Mandarin accents.
But San Francisco's Chinatown is primarily Cantonese speaking, right?
Exactly. So, showing some real cultural sensitivity, they actually had the actors redub their lines later, working with a coach to get the Cantonese dialect right. That was a thoughtful touch.
Speaking of the actors, this episode is nostalgic because you see B.D. Wong and Lucy Liu like really early in their careers.
Totally. Before they became huge stars.
Yeah.
It's fun to see them in these roles.
And wasn't there some gossip about Duchovny and Liu?
Yeah, there were rumors they might have dated briefly around the time of filming. Just a little bit of behind-the-scenes trivia adds to the lore,
It does. And B.D. Wong, he later played a police psychologist on Law & Order. SVU, right?
He did. Funny how he played law enforcement in both.
Yeah.
And there's that other little nod. His character here is Dr. Wu.
Same name as his character in Jurassic Park.
Exactly. Little in-joke for movie fans.
Plus Mulder's Ghostbusters reference.
Yeah.
Classic Mulder.
Oh, yeah. When the Festival of the Hungry Ghosts comes up. Who are you going to call? Perfect snapshot of the time.
Did this episode ever get, a book version?
It did. It was adapted into a young adult novel called Hungry Ghosts by Ellen Steiber. Part of that X-Files book series they did.
Huh. But not everyone involved loved the episode itself?
Apparently not. Co-producer Paul Rabwin reportedly felt it wasn't really an X-File in the true sense.
Why? Because no aliens or monsters?
Pretty much. He felt it lacked the paranormal edge and didn't really affect Mulder and Scully on a deep, personal level, which, is a valid perspective on what the show should be.
Interesting. And the ending, was it always meant to be Mulder figuring it out?
Well, the writer, Vlaming, actually hoped for something different originally. He wanted Scully to be right for a change, for her skepticism to pay off.
That would have been rare.
It would have. But it got changed. Went back to the more familiar pattern of Mulder's intuition leading the way.
So how was it received overall, back in the day?
Mixed to positive, generally. Some critics really praised the cultural exploration, the moral questions it raised.
Then others
Missed the supernatural stuff or felt Mulder and Scully were a bit sidelined. And yeah, some people apparently thought Detective Chow was interesting enough for his own show.
A Chinatown X-Files spinoff. Could have been cool.
Maybe. It definitely created a compelling world.
So wrapping up our deep dive on Hell Money, it really stands out, doesn't it? Even without the usual monsters, it packs a punch.
It really does. It's this grim, fascinating look at human desperation, cultural beliefs, and how people get exploited within a rigged system.
Yeah, it's a strong reminder that, sometimes the scariest things are purely human.
Absolutely. So as you think back on Hell Money, maybe consider this. How does showing these desperate people, these cultural outsiders, and the terrible choices they face, how does that land differently without a supernatural explanation?
Does it make the horror feel more real, maybe? More grounded?
Perhaps. And what about Chow's ending, that ambiguity? What does it suggest about justice or accountability when the system itself is so corrupt? Lots to chew on there.
Definitely. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed revisiting Hell Money and maybe learned a few things about what went on behind the camera.
Yeah, maybe go back and watch it again with some of this in mind. Until next time.